What's up YouTube, Capital G here, got some scrap action for you guys to check out, showing you some of the cool plays that you can do with the scrap archetype if we ever get scrap Wyvern and the TCG. Also, crystalline needle fiber would definitely help this archetype because it is synchro based and it's going to be used in our first duel. The second duel, it's not going to be used at all, and both of these are extremely solid plays. I mean, these are essentially like if you go first and you pull these off, you are going to be able to win the duel. He's playing against a pure version of danger. This is not actually any type of danger FTK. You'll see some of the other cards that he's going to play, but scraps are up first, and scraps are a deck that can put a whole lot of monsters on the field because of scrap Wyvern, because of scrap searcher. Its ability to basically just pull itself out of the graveyard. Also, the fact that like scrap golem, the monster that he just had on the field, and it's back on the field again. The fact that this guy is not a hard once per turn. Hard once per turns didn't exist for the most part during 5Ds when scraps came out. So basically you can just use their effects as much as possible. And as we've learned from like Luna Lights, as they've topped into TCG. Oh, you know what? Sorry, I forgot to point out he uses Plague Spreader Zombie to go into Yazzie. But as we've learned from these kind of cards that have monster reborn effects that are not hard once per turns, is that they will allow you to put a lot of monsters on the field. And with link summoning, which doesn't really care about the levels and stuff like that, obviously you can get the really big boards. This is actually a really good extra link because it's completely nightmare powered, and a lot of times when I see people make extra links, sure, they might end with Link Karibo, but it's not linked up to Nightmare Phoenix. This is kind of, to me, the perfect way to do it because you have the Nightmare Griffin kind of, slowing down your opponent, but also your Link Karibo cannot be destroyed by battle. So it's kind of important because your opponent just can't force out your extra link or break your extra link by just trying to ram into your Link Karibo. Also can't be destroyed. His monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects because of the Cerberus. So it's pretty good when it comes to an extra link. You can see he's going to crash everything into the Link Karibo, but it's just not going to get it off the field. So with this board, you will take some damage, but you're not going to have it outed by simply attacking. Now, this was actually pretty cheeky, right? So he knows that his opponent has 5 monsters on the field, and I mean, he doesn't have like a lot of raw damage here. Maybe you could give up a ton of this to make Borosword Dragon. I probably wouldn't, but he needs a way of being able to get rid of or just kind of game his opponent, and he's actually going to get rid of his opponent's token. Then he's actually going to summon the scrap golem for probably about the 6th time this duel, and this was very smart because people forget that scrap golem can summon to either player's side of the field. You can summon golem to your opponent's side of the field, summon that bad boy in attack position. This card cannot be destroyed by battle, but that's actually the good thing here because essentially it's like you're attacking your opponent directly and you can just have all your monsters ram into those. Now, if you're wondering, by the way, because it's the last turn, why the scrap searcher didn't blow up his monsters on the field when it was summoned, it's because the Cerberus is protecting all the link monsters. Even though they're not scraps, generally it would nuke your entire board, but doesn't matter if you have the Cerberus. Second duel is actually going to be him using more the synchro side of the deck. I mean, I wonder kind of how you determine which one of these plays to go for if everything kind of aligns and you have both options. I personally feel like what we're going to see in this second duel is a little better. Like if I had my choice between the extra link that we saw turn 1 and that last duel, or what you guys are going to see here, I would go for this play because I feel like it's just a little better. And extra links with some of the cards from Dark Neostorm, can just be broken, and there's obviously non-targeting removal, but this one's going to be a little bit better in my opinion. Now, one of the cool things is that scraps are all earth attributes, so they do have the ability to go into things like X-Saber Gotems, and you guys know the Gotems loops and all the plays that you've been able to do in the past. I've seen, well, when Soul Charge was around, you could just Gotems like basically your opponent's entire hand. Gotems is going to be used for 1, not bad. I mean, it gets 1 card out of your opponent's hand, but now you're actually going to go into another level 9 synchro, and I was like, okay, maybe Cloud Castle, bring back Gotems, use Gotems again, but this play makes more sense, honestly. If you know that you have not an infinite amount of Gotems because there's no soul charge, I think it's just smarter to go into True King of all calamities and basically stun your opponent's entire turn. But not just that, Again, these are Earth attributes, so he is able to go for an Eteria Beast. And I think that this board, which by the way, this still ends with 5 cards. You open with 5 cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! You still got 5 cards on board, and you have a Monster Reborn with your Scrap Golem for your next turn. I think this board's actually better than the Extra Link because now your opponent can't attack, they can't use any monster effects, and they can't use any spells as well. So even if, I mean, your opponent basically has to have like infinite impermanence to kind of be able to out this. And if your opponent had infinite impermanence for the Extra Link, they could probably out that anyways. But yeah, those are definitely some explosive plays. Plus, this didn't require needle fiber, so shout outs to that. Anyways, let's pause for one quick second and show you guys what this scrap deck list is looking like. Okay, so this is what the scrap build looks like on paper. There are a lot of spells in this deck. If your opponent flips over, I don't know, man, Imperial Order, you might as well go ahead and scoop them up. A lot of reliance on getting to Scrap Factory. It's kind of like an extender because it does pull one of your scrap monsters from your deck. Not just terraforming in here, but also set rotation to go alongside of set rotation because you have to run another field spell. He's playing Gateway of Chaos, which your opponent can't activate unless they're playing BLS or unless they just happen to have a Black Luster Soldier Ritual monster in their deck, which, you know, like best case scenario or almost all scenarios your opponent won't have. Now, I think it's a little going too ham to run like double hand destruction, also 1 day apiece, and contract with down 1,000. Generally, I think that these cards should only be reserved when you're kind of playing an FTK or when you 100% know your opponent is like going to lose if you combo out. And you know, even with an Eteria Beast plus something like a True King of All Calamities, you know, if I was playing Salamangreats and I am permanence that True King of All Calamities, I feel pretty confident I'm just going to win the duel. If I have, you know, Gazelle, or if I can get to Gazelle, I'm just going to probably win at that point. So I don't consider that to be like that 100% win condition that, you know, this deck is able to throw out there. Nothing on the level of an FTK or something like that. So I would probably drop these cards for, I don't know, hand traps or anti-hand traps in way of Called by the Grave. These kind of, I mean, Called by the Grave doesn't extend your play, but it stops your opponent from slowing your play down, if that makes sense.